Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get more length of material out of a shorter section of bar stock than what you otherwise may think that you can get. This came up with when I was teaching Thomas how to make tongs, and he kind of started off, and a lot of beginners, and I did too as well, we start off with some really heavy tong reins because we think we need this much length to get this much length when we draw material out, and that's just not the case. It leads to a lot of hand fatigue when you have really heavy handles in your tongs, and it also it's just wasteful. It's a lot more on the body to take and drive out all that material. So I'm going to show you a simple test you could do for yourself to take and get an eye for how much actual material do you need in volume to draw out the required length that you would need for, say, the reins of a tong handle. So without further ado, let's come right down to the anvil and I'll show you what I'm talking about. What this is a 6-inch length, and this is like 3/4 by 1/2 inch stock. The cross-sectional area does not matter in this case. We're just looking at about a cube of material. So that's roughly about what you might think that this may be. Whatever the widest cross-section is, that's how far we're going to come back on the piece. We're going to go ahead and measure back about 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to put a center punch mark. If you're following along at home, that's what you should do as well. Put a center punch mark. Now, I usually do this by eye. If I'm going to offset a cube of material, I'll put that, I won't even do a center punch. I'll say, okay, yeah, that looks about like a cube of material, set it over the edge of the anvil, I'm driving it down. Or on the near side edge of the anvil, same thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, that looks like a cube of material, I'll drive it down right there. But as you can see here, we got a center punch mark. We're doing this for practice. So we got roughly a 3/4 inch square on the end of this by 1/2 inch thick. Now what we're gonna do is we already know this measurement's 6 inches long, which it is. And already a 6-inch long piece. So we're going to heat this up and we're going to see how much we can stretch this out by just stretching out a cube of material, say down to, let's say, around 3/8 of an inch, which is a nice comfortable size for tong reins. All right, we've got this in good and hot. Now we're going to go ahead and put that little center punch mark on the edge of the anvil, and I'm going to try to draw right up to that. Just like I'm drawing down a tenon. I like to work back up to it. There you go. We got the starts of a good tenon started right there. We've stayed off the center punch mark. Grab Mr. Thing here. So right there is our center punch mark. If you guys can see it. Hopefully you can. So right there's our center punch mark. So we could come up, butt up even closer here, but we're leaving that residual area there that if we were to upset this into an actual tenon, we would have a little bit of material to push up into that mark. Let's go ahead and get let's get another heat on this, and we will continue to draw this down. This is still quite heavy. This isn't 3/8 yet, not quite 3/8 inch square. So we're gonna draw it down just a fuzz more and then round it up. Okay, so we can see how long this material is now. It's obviously gotten a little bit longer, but how much? Keep in mind that we're not fully up on our dot, so I can still grab about another 1/8 inch to 3/16 of material. I'm going to measure this off now and see about how long we are. So of that 3/4 inch that we originally started with, of that 6 inch piece that was 3/4 inch by 1/2 inch material, we have drawn that out a total of 7 inches. So if I pull that around, hopefully you guys can see that all right. About there to there. About 7 inches of material is what we've drawn out there. So now, or I should say it is now 7 inches long. So as you can see, it doesn't require a ton of material to draw this out. So we can know that if we take a cube here of material, we can add 1 inch to the length by drawing that down to 3/8. Now it's a very simple calculation of just stepping off that same amount of segments throughout your whole piece. How many 3/4 inch steps are there in a 6 inch piece? You can do that. You can do the math on it and divide it out. 6 inches divided by 0.750. You can take and do that. Of course, you'll have to put the 6 inches into that equation there, but you can divide that out with math, or you can take a pair of calipers and you can set them to 3/4 inch, and you can walk this section of bar stock off, and you'll know how much 6 inches of material here will be able to draw out in length. So for my math-inclined people out there, the subscribers, go ahead and drop down in the comment section the actual math there of how much material this 6 inches would equate to. But as you can see, that's a large gain from very little material. We were able to really gain a lot of length in this piece out of very little material. And I didn't even take all of that material, because right here, you guys can see it pretty well, hopefully, is that little that little dot. So let me go ahead and take one more heat. I'm going to draw this back fully to that dot now, and then we'll see how much more material we can get out of it. Again, we're still sitting. I can grab another solid 3/16 of material maybe from that dot and pull it forward. So let's go ahead and stick it back in the fire and do that now. Okay, got her nice and hot again. I'm going to look for my center punch mark. I'm going to start drawing down the material up to that point. Again, we're just gripping off a bit more material there to add into our tenon. Hopefully without hammering too much of a waste area into it. Not bad. Got a little more right in there I can get. Good. And of course, this isn't perfect, but we're not trying to make a perfect tenon. The point is to look at the amount of material we have. So there we have her. So now we'll get a measurement on that and see how much it grew. So we took up that extra little bit of 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to look at it here. Yeah, so out of that we grew, looks like we got 7 1/8. So we picked up another 1/8 inch of material with that maneuver right there. So now we're at 7 1/8. So we grew 1 1/8 inch of material out of 6 inches of bar stock originally. Pretty darn exciting. So you can tell that this little bit of material can really draw out and become quite a bit just by partitioning and taking bits of material and breaking down cross sections of material. Again, it doesn't matter how you go about making this or how you go about doing this. What is important is to know that you don't need as much as you think you need when you first get started. And you're just beating your brains out against the anvil for nothing. So let me show you a good example of this. Here's a pair of tongs that I made. This was a long while ago, and I way overestimated the amount of material that I needed to start with. In fact, it was really chunky material. I believe this was 3/4 inch. I believe it was 3/4 inch round bar. And I started with a fairly long piece of material to make these tongs out of. And I ended up chopping off a lot of material. I was drawing this out under the power hammer. I chopped off a lot of material, and I still have too much material in these. These big heavy tongs here, they weigh probably a solid 3 pounds or maybe a bit more, which is very fatiguing in the hand if you use these. Now, the jaws I needed to be real heavy duty, which that was fine for that type of material, but the reins, these are just way too chunky. These are a solid 1/2 inch, maybe like pushing borderline 5/8 of an inch of material here. That is just way too thick of material for tong reins. You don't need them that thick. Versus if you look, these tongs were not made by me, but if you see these at drawn down to 3/8 inch round here, look how much more elegant those tongs are, and those are not going to fatigue you. Very easily with one hand you can operate them. They don't torque and twist on your wrist like crazy. Versus these that weigh 3 pounds, they are very unwieldy, and it's a lot of weight pulling against your wrist. And after doing that day in, day out for many, many years, that will have its toll on you in wear and tear. But as you can see from that material exercise, I drew 6 inches of roughly this size material down, and I got a whole nother 1.1 inches out of this. So think about that. If I were to come in right around here, from the back here, and about 6 inches of material, and were to chop those off and draw all that down to 3/8, I would literally end up with the same length tong, but chopped off like up into here. And I would still end up with the same length of material or the same length of tong, but a lot lighter and a lot easier to maneuver and do what you need to do with. So if you are a beginner just getting started out making your own pairs of tongs, don't make them look like this in the finished result with big, heavy, chunky reins. Make them look like this, where they have a nice, graceful taper like this one on bottom. You can see it has a really nice, graceful taper out to some fairly thin ends, roughly 3/8 inch in diameter, and that will save your wrists, and it will work a lot better for you. And you won't have to spend as much time at the anvil drawing out all that unnecessary material by hand. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.